My name is Allison and I am 23 years old. I never thought my own blood could look so bright against shattered glass, or that my mother would check her watch instead of my pulse. As I lay trapped in our mangled SUV, pain shooting through my body, I heard words that changed everything. "Her class starts in 6, Mom yelled. Dad did not even flinch. "She can crawl out," he said. Then my sister stepped over me in her Lululemons, leaving me behind. What they did not know was how this moment would break more than just our car. If you are watching this, please drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever felt invisible in your own family. Trust me, this journey gets darker before the light breaks through. I grew up in Mapleton, a pristine suburb where property values matter more than people. Our two-story colonial with its manicured lawn and heated pool was the perfect backdrop for what appeared to be the perfect family. My parents, Diane and Robert Wilson, made sure we maintained that image at all costs. From my earliest memories, there was always an unspoken hierarchy in our household. My sister Haley, 2 years younger than me, somehow always occupied the top position. When we were little, it started with small things. She got the bigger bedroom with the bay window. Her artwork claimed the center spot on the refrigerator while mine was relegated to the side. During Christmas, her pile of presents always seemed to tower over mine. My mother Diane built her entire identity around status and appearances. A former beauty pageant competitor who never quite made it big, she channeled all her ambitions into creating the perfect family image. Her days revolved around hot yoga, green juices, and charity committee meetings where she could subtly brag about Haley. Wellness was her religion, but it was never about actual health. It was about looking good, appearing successful, and most importantly, being envied. Allison, remember that people are always watching, she would tell me while straightening my collar or fixing my hair. The Wilson family has standards. What she really meant was that I should never do anything to embarrass her. My father, Robert, was physically present but emotionally vacant. A corporate attorney specializing in mergers and acquisitions, he spent more time with his clients than his family. His metric for success was simple billable hours and portfolio growth. Conversations at dinner, when he attended, centered around Haley's accomplishments or market fluctuations. Never my photography exhibits or writing competitions. "The arts are a nice hobby, Allison," he once said when I showed him my scholarship offer to a prestigious photography program, "but they will not pay the bills. Think practically." He then turned to praise Haley for joining the school debate team, something that would look good on college applications. Haley, my sister, learned early how to work the system. She mastered the art of performing excellence in ways that our parents valued. Captain of the tennis team, student body president, straight-A student. She understood that our parents craved achievements they could brag about at country club gatherings. "Why can you not be more like your sister?" became the unofficial family motto directed at me. Not that I was unsuccessful. I maintained a 3.9 GPA, edited the school literary magazine, and won state recognition for my photography portfolio. But my achievements were always slightly off-center from what my parents valued. They wanted Yale Law, not art school recognition. I learned to be the responsible one, the reliable daughter. When Haley forgot her project, I stayed up all night helping her finish. When she missed curfew, I covered for her. I became the emotional support my parents never provided, all while being told I was somehow not enough. My passion for photography became my escape. Behind the lens, I could frame the world as I saw it, not as others demanded I see it. I captured beauty in abandoned places, dignity in forgotten faces. My high school teacher, Mrs. Lambert, was the first person who really saw my talent. "You have a gift for revealing truth, Allison," she told me. "Never let anyone dim that light." After graduating with honors from State University with a degree in visual journalism, I landed a promising position at a digital media startup. For 8 months, I tasted independence. My own apartment, my own schedule, my own life. Then the company lost its funding, layoffs followed, and at 23, I found myself back in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by reminders of always being second best. Moving back home felt like regression. My mother immediately began treating me like a teenager again, questioning my comings and goings. My father barely acknowledged my presence, except to ask about job prospects. And Haley, now in her senior year of college, seemed to enjoy my downfall whenever she visited on weekends. "It must be so hard coming back home after thinking you had made it," she said, one evening, her sympathy transparently false. "But not everyone can be successful right away. Some people take longer to find their path." She said this while showing off her summer internship offer from a prestigious marketing firm. The tension in the house grew thicker with each passing day. Every dinner became a minefield of passive-aggressive comments. Every family outing turned into a showcase of Haley's achievements and my perceived failures. I was applying for jobs, constantly picking up freelance photography gigs and planning my escape, but my parents saw only unemployment. Little did I know that our familiar family dynamic was about to shatter, just like the glass that would soon surround me on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The morning of the accident began like most others since I had moved back home. The spring sunshine streamed through the kitchen windows as I poured myself a cup of coffee, trying to prepare mentally for another day of job applications and parental judgment. "Allison, did you use all the almond milk again?" My mother entered the kitchen in her designer athleisure wear face already made up perfectly despite the early hour. "You know I need it for my morning smoothie." "There is still half the carton left," I replied, sliding it across the counter toward her. "I only used a splash." My father sat at the breakfast table hidden behind his financial newspaper, occasionally reaching for his black coffee without looking up. This was our normal, existing in the same space without truly connecting. Haley burst into the kitchen with the energy of someone who had never experienced rejection. "Oh my God, you will never believe what just happened," she exclaimed, waving her phone frantically. "Jasper Wells is teaching a special yoga flow class today at Enlightened Spirit Studio. He only announced it this morning on Instagram." The Jasper Wells. My mother nearly dropped her protein shake. "The one who trains all those celebrities." "Yes, he is in town for just today. The class starts at 11:30 and it is totally exclusive. I managed to get one of the last spots because Tiffany's mom follows him and got the alert." Haley was practically bouncing. "Everyone who matters will be there." "That is wonderful, honey." Mom beamed with the pride she reserved exclusively for Haley's accomplishments. "What are you going to wear?" As they launched into an in-depth discussion about appropriate yoga attire, my father finally lowered his newspaper. "What time did you say this class was?" 11:30, Haley repeated. "But I need to get there by 11 to get a good spot near the front." Dad checked his watch. "That might be tight. I have a client meeting in Westbrook at 2. "Robert, this is important," my mother interjected. "Jasper Wells is a kingmaker in the wellness community. This could be wonderful exposure for Haley. She has been working on her own wellness blog, you know." I sipped my coffee silently already, knowing how this would play out. Sure enough, within minutes, the entire day had been rearranged to accommodate Haley's yoga class. Mom canceled her lunch with friends. Dad rescheduled his meeting. And then they turned to me. "Allison, did not you mention something about a job interview today?" My mother asked with a look that already suggested what my answer should be. I straightened my shoulders. "Yes, at Crawford Media. It is at 10:30. "Well, we are all going to need to leave by 9:30 to make sure Haley gets to her class on time. We can drop you off first, but we will not be able to pick you up afterward. The interview will not take more than an hour." "Will it?" The interview was actually scheduled for 90 minutes and included a portfolio review that could potentially lead to a second round same day. I had been preparing for days. "I can take an Uber," I suggested. "In this economy, when you do not even have a steady income." My father scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. Call and reschedule the interview." "Dad, this is a really good opportunity. The position is perfect for my experience and—" "Allison." His tone left no room for discussion. "Family comes first. Your sister has a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can reschedule an interview." The familiar ache of being overlooked settled in my chest. I nodded silently and left the kitchen to make the call, listening to Haley chatter excitedly about which Lululemon outfit would photograph best for her Instagram. The Crawford media receptionist was surprisingly understanding when I called to reschedule, offering a slot for the following Monday. I tried to focus on the positive. At least I still had the interview. At least they seemed interested. I repeated these thoughts as I changed out of my carefully selected professional outfit into jeans and a sweater. By 9:25, we were all loaded into my father's luxury SUV. Mom took the passenger seat, immediately adjusting the air conditioning and radio. Haley and I sat in the back with her, constantly checking her phone and adjusting her appearance in her compact mirror. "Can you move over a bit more, Allison? I need space to stretch my hamstrings before class." Haley nudged me further against the door without waiting for a response. The tension in the car was palpable as Dad navigated through morning traffic. Mom kept checking the time, providing unnecessary updates every few minutes. "It is 9:42 now. We should be on the expressway by 9:50 to ensure we make it by 11. Dad's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "I know how to read a clock, Diane." Haley sighed dramatically from the back seat. "If I miss this class, my entire influencer strategy for the summer is ruined. Jasper only does these pop-up sessions like once a year in this area." I stared out the window, watching the suburban landscape blur by. The spring day was beautiful, with cherry blossoms and dogwoods in full bloom. It seemed cruel that such a perfect day would soon turn into a nightmare. As we merged onto the expressway, Dad began driving more aggressively than usual, weaving between lanes to shave minutes off our travel time. "Robert, that truck was very close," Mom commented, gripping the door handle. "We are fine," he snapped. "If we had left when I first suggested, we would not be rushing now." "Well, if you had not spent 20 minutes reading about stock options, we would have left earlier," she retorted. I noticed Dad's speed creeping up the needle, pushing past 70 in a 65 zone. "Maybe we should slow down a bit," I suggested quietly. "Nobody asked you, Allison," Haley rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Maddie just texted that the studio is already filling up." She showed her phone in my mother's face. "Mom, we have to hurry." "Robert, can you take the Hillcrest exit? It might be faster at this time of day." Dad grunted in acknowledgement, cutting across 2 lanes to make the approaching exit. I braced myself against the door, a sense of foreboding washing over me. The exit ramp curved sharply, forcing Dad to brake harder than expected. "Damn it," he muttered, accelerating again as we reached the bottom of the ramp. The light ahead was yellow, transitioning to red. In a normal situation, we would have stopped. But with Haley's incessant sighing and Mom's anxious glances at her watch, Dad made a split-second decision that would change everything. "We can make it," he said, pressing the gas pedal to the floor. I saw the other car before anyone else did. A blue sedan entering the intersection from the left, their light freshly green. I opened my mouth to shout a warning, but it was already too late. Time seemed to slow down. I remember thinking how blue the sky looked through the windshield. I remember Haley's gasp beside me. I remember the strange calm in my father's eyes in the rearview mirror, as if he could not quite process what was about to happen. And then impact. The sound came first, a horrific metal-on-metal screech that seemed to vibrate through my bones, followed by the explosive shattering of glass. Our SUV spun violently, the world outside whirling in a disorienting blur of color and motion. My body jerked against the seatbelt, then slammed sideways as something hard crashed into my door. When the movement finally stopped, the silence was almost as shocking as the noise had been. For several heartbeats, nobody moved or spoke. My ears rang with a high-pitched whine, and I tasted blood where I had bitten my lip during impact. "Is everyone okay?" My father's voice sounded distant, though he was only feet away. My yoga mat, Haley, was the first to respond, frantically searching the floor of the car. "Where is my yoga mat?" "Haley, are you hurt?" Mom twisted in her seat, reaching back toward my sister while completely bypassing me. I tried to speak, but found it difficult to catch my breath. A sharp pain radiated through my ribcage with each inhale. Worse, I realized I could not move my legs. The driver's side rear door where I sat had crumpled inward, pinning me against the center console. Shattered glass from the window covered my lap and legs, some pieces embedded in my skin. Blood was seeping through my jeans in several places. "I think I am stuck," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I cannot move." No one responded. Dad had already unbuckled his seatbelt and was getting out to inspect the damage to the vehicle. Mom was helping Haley gather her scattered belongings. Neither seemed to register what I had said. "Robert, how bad is it?" Mom called out as Dad circled the car. "Bad enough. That idiot hit us right in the rear quarter panel." He ran his hand through his hair in frustration. "Insurance is going to be a nightmare." The pain in my side intensified, and I felt something warm trickling down my temple. Reaching up, my fingers came away red with blood from a cut near my hairline. "I think I am bleeding," I said louder this time. "Can someone help me?" The door is crushed in. Mom finally looked back at me, her expression shifting from annoyance to mild concern when she noticed the blood. "Oh dear. Are you badly hurt?" Before I could answer, a woman appeared at the broken window beside me. "Oh my God, are you all right? I saw the whole thing. That car ran the red light and hit you. I have already called 911. "Thank you," I said to this stranger who showed more concern than my own family. "The girl in the back is trapped," the woman called to my father. "She is bleeding." Dad peered in through the broken window, frowning at the way the door had collapsed inward. "Can you slide over to the other side and get out that way?" I tried to move but cried out as pain shot through my ribs and right wrist. "I cannot. It hurts too much." Mom checked her watch and made a small, distressed sound. "Robert, it is already 10:50. Haley's class starts in 40 minutes, and we still need to get across town." I know. Dad looked genuinely conflicted for a moment, torn between dealing with the accident and maintaining the family schedule. "The ambulance is on its way," the kind stranger assured me, reaching through the broken window to touch my shoulder. "Just stay still, honey." "We cannot wait for an ambulance," Haley whined, now standing outside the car with her yoga bag clutched to her chest. "Mom, I cannot miss this class. Everyone who matters in the wellness community will be there." I could not believe what I was hearing. "Haley, we just had an accident. I am literally bleeding and stuck in the car." My sister barely glanced at me. "It does not look that bad. You are always so dramatic, Allison." Mom checked her watch again and made a decision. "Robert, can we leave the car here and take an Uber? The police can deal with the accident report, right?" Dad nodded slowly. "I suppose so. My insurance agent can handle most of it by phone." "What about me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I am still stuck in here." That is when I heard the words that would replay in my mind for months to come. Mom looked at her watch one more time and exclaimed, "Her class starts in 6. Dad did not even flinch as he replied, "She can crawl out." My sister, already ordering an Uber on her phone, adjusted her Lululemon leggings and stepped over the broken glass surrounding the car, including the pieces scattered near me. She did not offer to help, did not ask if I was okay, did not acknowledge my existence at all. "The car will be here in 3 minutes, she announced. "Perfect," Mom said, collecting her purse from the front seat. "Robert, make sure you get all the insurance information from the other driver before you join us." "Wait," I called out, unable to comprehend what was happening. "You are leaving. All of you, I am still trapped in here." "Allison, the ambulance is coming," Dad said dismissively. "They are professionals. They will get you out safely. There is no reason for all of us to miss Haley's opportunity." "Opportunity," I repeated incredulously. "It is a yoga class." "It is not just a yoga class," Haley snapped. "It is a networking event that could launch my influencer career. Not that you would understand ambition." The Uber pulled up across the street and my mother and sister immediately started walking toward it. Dad lingered just long enough to say, "Call me when you get to the hospital. And try not to give them our premium insurance information first. Let them bill the other driver's insurance." With that parting financial advice, he followed them, leaving me bleeding and trapped in the shattered remains of our family car. The kind stranger who had called 911 looked shocked. "Did your family just leave you here?" Tears mixed with the blood on my face as I nodded. "They have priorities." I managed to say the bitter truth of those words sinking in deeper than any piece of glass. Two more people stopped to help a middle-aged man and his teenage son. They talked to me gently, keeping me conscious and calm, until the wail of sirens announced the arrival of help. The paramedics worked quickly, assessing my injuries before carefully extracting me from the wreckage. They had to use special equipment to pry the doorframe away enough for me to be removed safely. "You have got some nasty lacerations, possible concussion, and I am concerned about those ribs," the female paramedic told me as they transferred me to a stretcher. "We are going to take good care of you, okay?" As they loaded me into the ambulance, the male paramedic looked around. "Are you alone? Is there family we should contact?" "They had somewhere more important to be," I said, the reality of my family's betrayal finally hitting me full force. "My sister had a yoga class." The paramedics exchanged a look I could not quite interpret. Disbelief, pity. Whatever it was, it confirmed what I already knew. What my family had done was not normal. It was not acceptable. It was not love. As the ambulance doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of the mangled SUV glass glittering in the spring sunshine like diamonds scattered across the asphalt. A perfect metaphor for my family. Shiny and impressive from a distance, dangerously sharp and broken up close. The ambulance pulled away, carrying me toward a hospital where no one would be waiting for me. But also, I realized as I closed my eyes against the pain carrying me toward the first moments of my new life. Because something fundamental had broken today, and it was not just the car. The ambulance ride was a blur of pain, gentle questions, and the steady beeping of monitoring equipment. The female paramedic, whose name tag read Sarah, held my hand when the pain spiked as we hit a pothole. "Sorry about that," she said, genuine concern in her eyes. "We are almost there. Just breathe through it if you can." Her kindness made my throat tight with emotion. This stranger was showing more care than my own family had in years. "Is there someone we should call for you?" the male paramedic asked as he checked my blood pressure. "A friend. Maybe since your family is unavailable?" I tried to think of someone but came up empty. Since moving back home, I had lost touch with most of my college friends. My few work friends from the startup had scattered across the country after the layoffs. I had become isolated without even realizing it. "No," I admitted. "There is no one." The paramedics exchanged another one of those looks, and Sarah squeezed my hand a little tighter. The emergency room was chaotic but efficient. I was whisked into a trauma bay where doctors and nurses swarmed around me, cutting away my bloodied clothes, examining wounds, ordering scans. "Multiple lacerations requiring sutures," a doctor called out. "Possible concussion, suspected rib fractures, sprained wrist." I winced as they cleaned the glass from my wounds, each piece removed, sending fresh waves of pain through my body. "Where is your family, sweetie?" an older nurse asked as she gently washed blood from my face. "Yoga class," I replied, the absurdity of it making me laugh despite the pain. The laugh turned into a gasp, as it aggravated my injured ribs. "Try not to move too much," the nurse advised, her forehead creasing with concern. "We will get you something for the pain soon." Hours passed in a haze of procedures. X-rays confirmed 3 fractured ribs. 27 stitches closed the various lacerations on my legs, arms, and face. A CT scan ruled out internal bleeding but confirmed a mild concussion. My right wrist was sprained but not broken, and was wrapped in a supportive brace. Throughout it all, not once did my phone ring with concerned family members checking on me. When a hospital administrator came to collect my insurance information, I realized my wallet was still in my purse, which was still in the wrecked car. "My father said not to give you our premium insurance first." I said, the medication making me more honest than I might otherwise have been. "He wants you to bill the other driver." The administrator looked startled, then softened. Let us not worry about that right now. We will sort the insurance out later. Focus on getting better. By evening, I was settled in a room I would share with an elderly woman named Ruth. The privacy curtain was drawn between us, but I could hear her soft breathing and occasional murmurs as she watched television. I reached for my phone, which a kind emergency room tech had charged for me, and saw no missed calls. No texts asking if I was okay. Nothing. With shaking fingers, I called my mother first. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I tried my father next with the same result. Finally, more out of a desire to confirm my suspicions than any real hope, I texted Haley. In hospital, multiple injuries. Could use some support. Minutes ticked by with no response. Then finally, my phone chimed with a new message. I opened it eagerly, only to find a selfie of Haley in a yoga pose, the famous instructor visible in the background. The caption read, "Best class ever. My warrior pose got a personal adjustment from Jasper himself. Number, blessed number, wellness number, influencer life." No acknowledgement of my message. No question about my condition. It was as if I had never texted her at all. I let the phone drop onto the hospital blanket, too numb even for tears. The nurse who came to check my vitals must have noticed something in my expression. "Rough day, huh?" she said kindly, as she wrapped the blood pressure cuff around my arm. You could say that I replied, "No visitors coming tonight." I shook my head, slightly mindful of the concussion. Number, no visitors. She patted my uninjured hand. "Well, Ruth over there is good company even if she does snore a bit. And I will be checking on you regularly. You are not alone." But I was alone in all the ways that mattered. As darkness fell outside my hospital window, I lay awake, the pain medication not quite dulling the deeper ache in my chest. Every time my phone lit up, I reached for it, hoping, but it was never my family. Just automated notifications, app updates, meaningless digital noise. Around 9:30, my phone finally rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen and I answered immediately. "Mom, I am in the hospital. I have 3 broken ribs and needed stitches and—" "Yes, Allison, I assumed you would end up there," she interrupted. "Your father and I have been dealing with the insurance company all afternoon. Do you have any idea how much this accident is going to cost us? Our premiums will skyrocket." "No, how are you feeling? No, I am sorry we left you. Just concern about money." "The doctor says I need to stay overnight for observation because of the concussion," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Well, that seems excessive. American healthcare is so dramatic. In Europe, they would just send you home with some painkillers." She sighed heavily. Anyway, Haley's class was transformative. The instructor actually invited her to his exclusive retreat next month. Only 20 influencers were selected. We are so proud. I listened in disbelief as she continued to gush about Haley's networking success, not once asking about my medical condition or expressing concern about the fact that they had abandoned me at an accident scene. "Mom," I finally interrupted. "Did you hear what I said? I am in the hospital. I am hurt. You left me bleeding in a wrecked car." There was a pause then. "You are being melodramatic, Allison. The ambulance was already on its way. What good would it have done for all of us to stand around waiting? And everything worked out fine. You are getting medical care. The car will be covered by insurance, and Haley made a valuable industry connection." "I cannot believe you are saying this," I whispered, tears finally spilling over. "Your own daughter was injured and trapped, and you left her for a yoga class." "It was not just a yoga class," she snapped. "And frankly, Allison, this victim mentality is exactly why you are still living at home at 23, while Haley is already building a successful career. Now, what time should we pick you up tomorrow? Your father has meetings all morning, so it would need to be afternoon." I ended the call without answering, too stunned to form words. 10 minutes later, my father called. His approach was different, but no less hurtful. "Allison, what is the damage?" he asked, his tone businesslike. 3 fractured ribs, sprained wrist concussion, 27 stitches. I recited mechanically. No, I meant the car. Did they tell you if it is totaled or repairable? Another blow. Another confirmation that in the hierarchy of family concerns I ranked below property. I do not know about the car, Dad. I was a little busy bleeding. There is no need for sarcasm, he scolded. I am trying to handle the practical aspects of this situation. Someone needs to think about the logistics. The logistics of leaving your injured daughter alone at an accident scene. I could not keep the bitterness from my voice. You were not alone. Emergency services were on their way. And you are an adult, Allison, not a child. You do not need hand-holding for every little crisis. Little crisis. The words echoed in my head as we ended the call shortly after. My father, like my mother, had not apologized or acknowledged any wrongdoing. The night nurse came in to find me crying silently. Without a word, she pulled up a chair and sat beside my bed. Family trouble, she asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak through the tightness in my throat. You know, she said, in my 20 years as a nurse, I have seen all kinds of families. The ones who camp out in waiting rooms for days. The ones who bring entire home-cooked meals. The ones who never show up at all. She adjusted my blanket gently. And I have learned something important. Family is not always the people who share your DNA. Sometimes family is the people who show up when you need them. I do not think I have those people, I admitted. You will find them, she assured me. Or they will find you. Either way, you will not always feel this alone. Her words were a small comfort as I drifted into an uneasy sleep pain medication, finally overtaking the emotional turmoil. When morning came, Ruth, my elderly roommate, insisted on sharing her breakfast muffin with me and telling me about her 6 grandchildren who were driving in from 3 different states to visit her. Family is everything, she said, her eyes crinkling with genuine joy. I do not know what I would do without my kids and grandkids. I smiled politely, not wanting to burden this sweet woman with my reality. But as the morning progressed with still no visit or even meaningful check-in from my family, the hospital staff grew increasingly protective of me. The day nurse scowled when I mentioned no one was coming to pick me up. The attending physician frowned deeply when he realized I had no support person to review discharge instructions with. Is there absolutely no one who can come get you, the discharge coordinator asked. We generally do not like to release concussion patients to ride-share services. I will figure something out, I assured her, though I had no idea what that would be. By early afternoon, I was officially cleared for discharge still, with no firm plan for getting home. As I sat on the edge of the hospital bed in the scrubs they had given me to replace my destroyed clothes, my phone finally chimed with a text from my father. Caught in meetings until 5 p.m. Can you Uber home, save the receipt for insurance claim? And there it was, the final confirmation that I truly did not matter to my family, not even enough for a ride home from the hospital after a traumatic accident. I called for an Uber, ignoring the concerned look from the nurse who helped me into a wheelchair for hospital policy's mandatory escort to the exit. As I waited by the hospital entrance, I made a silent vow to myself. This was the last time I would expect my family to behave like a family. This was the last time I would be disappointed by them. Because from this moment forward, I would expect nothing. The Uber driver, a middle-aged man named Carlos, showed more concern about my obvious injuries than my entire family had. Hospital pickup, huh? You okay, miss? I will be, I said, and for the first time since the accident, I believed it might eventually be true. The Uber pulled up to my parents' house just after 4 in the afternoon. Carlos, my driver, insisted on helping me to the door, despite my assurances that I could manage. My daughter is about your age, he explained as he carefully supported my elbow up the front steps. I would want someone to help her if she was hurt. His simple kindness nearly undid me. I thanked him with a shaky voice and fumbled for my house key, relieved to find it still in the pocket of the hospital scrubs. The house was quiet when I entered, which was a small mercy. I made my way slowly upstairs to my bedroom, each step sending pain shooting through my ribcage. Once inside my childhood room, I caught sight of myself in the mirror and froze. A stranger stared back at me. My face was pale except for the angry red gash along my temple held together with neat black stitches. Dark circles shadowed my eyes. Hospital scrubs hung loosely on my frame. I looked exactly like what I was, a trauma victim. I carefully changed into soft pajamas, swallowing pain medication with water from the bathroom sink. Then I crawled into bed, pulled the covers over my head, and finally allowed myself to really cry. Not just for the physical pain, but for the devastating reality I could no longer deny. My family did not love me, at least not in any way that mattered. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, voices downstairs jolted me awake. Glancing at my phone, I saw it was after 7 in the evening. Dinner time. My stomach growled, reminding me I had not eaten since the hospital breakfast. Slowly, painfully, I made my way downstairs. As I approached the dining room, I heard laughter and the clink of silverware against plates. My family was eating dinner as if nothing had happened, as if I had not been in a serious accident, as if I had not spent the night in the hospital. I stood in the doorway watching them for a moment before they noticed me. Dad at the head of the table, focused on his plate. Mom to his right, animatedly describing something with her hands. Haley across from her, scrolling through her phone while absently forking salad into her mouth. Normal. Ordinary. Except for the fact that their daughter and sister had been abandoned at an accident scene less than 36 hours earlier. Mom saw me first. "Oh, Allison. You are home." Her surprise was genuine, as if she had forgotten I existed. "We did not hear you come in." "I have been here for hours," I said, my voice hoarse from sleep and emotion. "Well, you should have come down for dinner," Dad said without looking up from his meal. "Your mother made roast chicken." Haley finally glanced up from her phone. Her eyes widened slightly at my appearance, then quickly returned to her screen. "Wow, you look terrible." "I was in a car accident," I reminded her. "While you were doing downward dog, I was having glass picked out of my skin." "Are you hungry?" Mom asked clearly, uncomfortable with my directness. "There is plenty left." I remained in the doorway. "Did none of you think to check on me to see if I made it home from the hospital, to ask how I am doing?" An awkward silence fell over the table. My father cleared his throat. "We assumed you would let us know if you needed anything." "Needed anything?" I repeated, disbelief sharpening my voice. "I needed you to not leave me bleeding in a wrecked car. I needed someone to be with me in the emergency room. I needed a ride home from the hospital." "The ambulance was there," Mom said defensively. "And you are an adult, Allison. You can handle a minor accident without us holding your hand." Minor, I lifted my shirt slightly to reveal the bandages wrapping my ribcage. 3 fractured ribs, 27 stitches, concussion, sprained wrist. The doctor said I was lucky not to have internal bleeding. "Well, you clearly did not, so everything worked out fine," Haley interjected. "Why are you being so dramatic about this?" Something inside me snapped. All the years of being overlooked, minimized, and dismissed crystallized into a white-hot rage that burned through my pain. "Dramatic. You think being upset that my family abandoned me at an accident scene is being dramatic?" My voice rose despite the pain in my ribs. What kind of people leave their injured daughter trapped in a car so they can go to a yoga class? What kind of sister steps over her bleeding sibling without even asking if she is okay? What kind of parents do not even visit their child in the hospital? "Lower your voice," Dad commanded. "The neighbors will hear." "Let them hear," I shouted, tears streaming down my face now. "Let them know what kind of family you really are. Let them know that appearances matter more to you than actual human decency." Mom stood up, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "That is enough, Allison. You are overreacting." Yes, we made a split-second decision to let Haley attend her class while the professionals handled the accident. It was efficient time management, not abandonment. Efficient time management, I echoed hollowly. Is that what you call leaving your injured daughter alone? You were not alone, Dad insisted. Emergency services were there. Strangers, I said. Strangers showed me more compassion and care than my own family. Haley rolled her eyes dramatically. Here we go again with the poor Allison routine. You have always been jealous of any attention I get. You just cannot stand that I am actually building something successful while you are still figuring out your life. This is not about jealousy, Haley. This is about basic human decency, about families supposedly loving each other and being there in a crisis. We are here now, Mom said, as if that fixed everything. And getting hysterical is not going to help your recovery. I stared at them, truly seeing them for perhaps the first time. My mother more concerned with appearances than actual well-being. My father calculating everything in terms of efficiency and cost. My sister so self-absorbed she could not even feign empathy. None of you are going to admit you did anything wrong, are you? I asked quietly. They exchanged glances, a silent family communication from which I had always been excluded. Wrong is a strong word, Dad finally said. We made a decision based on the circumstances. The emergency was being handled by professionals. Haley had a time-sensitive opportunity. A yoga class, I reminded him. You chose a yoga class over your injured daughter. It was not just a yoga class, Haley insisted for what felt like the 100th time. It was a networking opportunity that has already led to an invitation to an exclusive retreat. My wellness brand Instagram followers increased by 20% just from the photos I posted yesterday. I felt suddenly exhausted, the pain medication wearing off, and the emotional toll draining what little energy I had left. Did any of you even worry about me? For even a moment, another uncomfortable silence. Of course we worried, Mom finally said, though her tone lacked conviction. But we knew you would be fine. You have always been resilient. Resilient. Because I had to be. Because no one else was going to catch me when I fell. The truth of that hit me with stunning clarity. I am going back upstairs, I said, too drained to continue the confrontation. Do not worry about bringing me dinner. I would not want to inconvenience anyone. As I turned to leave, my mother called after me. Oh, Allison, before I forget, I posted about our family trauma on my wellness journey page. The support has been overwhelming. People are so inspired by how we are handling adversity together. I froze mid-step, then slowly turned back. You did what? She smiled, clearly proud of herself. I shared our story. About the accident and how we are supporting each other through this difficult time. I called it Finding Wellness Through Family Crisis. It has gotten more engagement than anything I have posted all year. But that is not what happened, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You did not support me at all. She waved her hand dismissively. Details. The important thing is the message of family resilience. I stared at her, at all of them, these strangers who shared my blood, but apparently nothing else. Without another word, I turned and made my painful way back upstairs to my room. Once inside, I collapsed onto my bed, the pain in my body nothing compared to the agony in my heart. I cried until my fractured ribs screamed in protest, until my concussion made my head pound, until there were simply no tears left. As I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling of my childhood bedroom, I realized I had reached a turning point. This family would never be what I needed them to be. They would never acknowledge their failures, never truly see me, never put my well-being above their convenience. The realization was both devastating and strangely liberating. If I could not count on them, then I would have to count on myself. If they would not support me, I would have to find people who would. If this was not a real family, then I would need to create one of my own choosing. I fell asleep that night with tear-stained cheeks, but a resolve forming in my heart. Something had to change. I had to change it. And for the first time in my life, I truly understood that waiting for my family to become the people I needed them to be was a fool's errand. It was time to save myself. The morning after our confrontation, I woke with a clarity I had not felt in years. My body was still in pain, but my mind was surprisingly sharp. As I carefully sat up in bed, mindful of my injured ribs, I reached for my phone and did something I should have done the day of the accident. I called Amanda, my closest friend from college, who I had gradually lost touch with after moving home. She answered on the third ring. "Allison, oh my God, it has been forever. How are you?" The simple question asked with genuine interest made my throat tighten with emotion. "Not great, actually. I was in a car accident 2 days ago." "What, are you okay? What happened?" The concern in her voice was like a balm to my wounded spirit. I found myself telling her everything. The accident, my family abandoning me for a yoga class, the night alone in the hospital, the confrontation at dinner. Once I started talking, I could not stop. All the hurt and betrayal poured out in a flood of words. "Those absolute monsters," Amanda said when I finally finished. "I cannot believe they left you bleeding in a car for a freaking yoga class." Her indignation on my behalf validated what I already knew. My family's behavior was not normal. It was not acceptable. "Listen," Amanda continued without hesitation. "I have meetings until noon, but I can drive up after that. It is only a couple hours from the city. You should not be alone right now." "You would do that?" I asked, genuinely surprised by the offer. "Of course I would. That is what friends do, Allison. They show up." After we hung up, I sat in bed letting her words sink in. That is what friends do. They show up. Such a simple concept, yet so foreign to my experience with my own family. With new determination, I opened my email and found the message from Crawford Media about my rescheduled interview. Taking a deep breath, I composed a reply explaining my situation honestly. I had been in an accident, sustained multiple injuries, but was still very interested in the position. Would it be possible to do an initial interview via video call until I was more mobile? To my surprise, I received a response within the hour. Melissa, the hiring manager, expressed concern about my injuries and readily agreed to a video interview. She even suggested we could do the portfolio review remotely as well. Her email ended with, "Take care of yourself first. The right opportunity will wait for the right person." Another small act of basic human decency that stood in stark contrast to my family's behavior. Emboldened by these positive interactions, I decided to reach out to my old college roommate, Jessica. We had been close once before life pulled us in different directions. Her reply to my text came quickly. "OMG, Allison, I have been thinking about you. I just moved into a new apartment and have a spare room." Was literally going to reach out about potential roommates. Universe timing? OMG. By the time Amanda arrived that afternoon, I had the beginnings of a plan forming. She bustled into my room with a care package of pain relievers, fancy tea, a heating pad, and chocolate. "Your mom let me in," she said, her expression conveying volumes about that brief interaction. "She seemed surprised you had a visitor." "They do not think of me as someone who has friends," I said, accepting her gentle hug. "Sometimes I do not think of myself that way either." Amanda sat cross-legged on my bed, careful not to jostle my injuries. "So what is your next move?" "Because you cannot stay here, Allie. These people are toxic." Hearing someone else say it aloud was strangely freeing. "I know. I have been reaching out to people today. Jessica has a spare room in her new place. Crawford Media agreed to a video interview next week." "That is my girl," Amanda smiled. "Already problem-solving. Now what can I do to help?" Over the next few hours, Amanda helped me create a concrete exit strategy. We researched what financial documents I would need, made lists of my essential belongings, and discussed the logistics of moving with my injuries. For the first time since the accident, I felt a flicker of hope. The following days brought small acts of rebellion and independence. I declined to join family dinner instead, having Amanda bring takeout to my room. I scheduled a telehealth appointment with a therapist recommended by my hospital discharge papers. I confirmed details with Jessica about potentially moving into her spare room. Dr. Patterson, the therapist, listened to my story without interruption during our first video session, then said something that resonated deeply. What you are describing, Allison, is emotional neglect. It is a form of abuse that often goes unrecognized because there are no bruises to show for it, but the damage is real. Abuse. I had never considered applying that word to my family dynamics. But as Dr. Patterson helped me unpack years of being overlooked, minimized, and treated as an inconvenience, I began to recognize patterns that had shaped my entire life. The accident did not create this dynamic, she explained. It simply revealed what was already there. And now you have a choice about how to respond. My video interview with Crawford Media went surprisingly well. Speaking from my bedroom with carefully applied makeup, concealing the worst of my facial injuries, I presented my portfolio and answered questions about my experience and vision. Melissa seemed genuinely impressed, particularly with a series of photos I had taken documenting overlooked community spaces. These show remarkable empathy and attention to what others miss, she commented. That is exactly the perspective we need for our community outreach project. 2 days later, they offered me the position. The salary was modest, but sufficient to afford my half of rent with Jessica. More importantly, it represented freedom. A way out. A new beginning. As my physical strength gradually returned, my resolve strengthened. I began packing small boxes when my family was out of the house, hiding them under my bed. I transferred my meager savings to a new bank account my parents could not access. I arranged for my mail to be forwarded to Jessica's address. The confrontation with Haley came unexpectedly. She burst into my room one afternoon, waving her phone. "I need you to photograph my yoga retreat next weekend," she announced without preamble. "It is going to be amazing for my brand." Jasper specifically invited me to document the experience. I looked up from the book I was reading. The single word hung in the air between us. Haley blinked clearly, not comprehending rejection. "What do you mean, no? You are a photographer. This is a photography opportunity." "I mean, no, Haley. I will not be your personal photographer. I am not feeling well enough to travel, and even if I was, I would not do it." Her face contorted with indignation. "Is this about the accident? Are you still being dramatic about that?" "This is about me finally recognizing my own worth," I said calmly. "You can hire a photographer if you need one." "Hire? You want me to pay you? You are my sister." "Yes, I am your sister. The same sister you stepped over while I was bleeding in a wrecked car so you could get to yoga class." Haley's expression hardened. "You will never let that go, will you? One little thing and you will hold it against me forever." "It was not little to me, Haley. And no, I will not photograph your retreat." She stormed out, slamming my door hard enough to send pain shooting through my still healing ribs. But despite the physical discomfort, I felt stronger than I had in years. I had set a boundary and held it despite her attempts to manipulate me. My father was next. He cornered me in the kitchen a few days later. "Your mother tells me you have been spending a lot of time in your room," he began his tone, suggesting this was problematic. "And that you had some friend over without asking permission." "I am 23 years old, Dad. I do not need permission to have a friend visit. And yes, I have been resting because I am recovering from significant injuries." He frowned at my directness. "There is no need for attitude, Allison. This is still our house, and we expect certain courtesies. Like the courtesy of not abandoning your injured daughter at an accident scene," I asked quietly. His face flushed. "We have been through this. The situation was being handled by professionals." "Yes, it was. Just not by my family." I turned to leave but paused. "By the way, I got a job. I start next Monday." Surprise flickered across his face. "A job where, doing what?" "Crawford Media. Visual journalism and community outreach." "That art thing you were interviewing for, I thought you rescheduled that interview." "I did. I had a video interview instead. They offered me the position." He looked genuinely confused, as if the idea that I could succeed without their involvement did not compute. "Well, that is." Good, I suppose. Though I still think you could aim higher with your educational background. It is exactly what I want to be doing, I said firmly. And I am good at it. The final piece fell into place when Jessica confirmed I could move in that weekend. Amanda offered her SUV and her boyfriend's help to transport my belongings. Everything was arranged for Sunday when my family would be attending a charity brunch my mother could not miss. The night before my planned escape, I sat at the family dinner table one last time. My mother chatted about neighborhood gossip. My father discussed stock options. Haley scrolled through Instagram, occasionally showing my mother posts from influencers she admired. No one asked about my recovery, my new job, or my unusually quiet demeanor. I studied them as if they were subjects in a photograph, noting details I had never fully processed before. The way my mother's smile never quite reached her eyes. The permanent furrow between my father's brows. The practiced tilt of Haley's head when she wanted attention. They were playing roles in a family drama that had never included a real part for me. As I excused myself from the table, I felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. Tomorrow, I would begin building a life where I was valued, where my presence mattered, where love was not conditional on convenience. In my room, I finished packing the last of my belongings. On my desk, I left a simple note explaining my departure and my need for space. Not a goodbye exactly, but a boundary, a declaration of independence from a family system that had never truly seen me. As I lay in my childhood bed for the last time, I realized the accident had been both a trauma and a gift. In their most honest moment, my family had revealed a truth I had been avoiding for years. Now, painful as it was, I could finally begin to heal. 6 months after the accident that changed everything, I stood in the gallery space of the Urban Lens, arranging the final photographs for my first solo exhibition. Titled Fragments, the series documented my journey from brokenness to wholeness, through abstract images of shattered glass reforming into new patterns. My physical recovery had been faster than the emotional one. The stitches were removed weeks ago, leaving only faint silver lines that would fade with time. My ribs had healed, though they still ached occasionally when the weather changed. The sprained wrist had strengthened through physical therapy and daily practice with my camera. This one should be centered more, Jessica suggested, helping me adjust a large print showing light refracting through broken glass. As promised, she had taken me in as a roommate, and our friendship had deepened into something like sisterhood over the months of living together. What do you think? Too on the nose, I asked, stepping back to assess the impact of the piece. It is perfect, Amanda declared, walking in with 3 coffee cups balanced precariously in her hands. Subtle but powerful. Like its creator. These 2 women had become the core of what I now considered my real family. My chosen family. The people who showed up, who saw me, who celebrated my successes, and supported me through difficult days. My job at Crawford Media had evolved from a lifeline into a genuine career path. Melissa had become both mentor and friend, championing my ideas and pushing me to develop my unique visual voice. The community outreach project had connected me with local artists and activists who shared my passion for highlighting overlooked stories. Are you nervous about tonight? Jessica asked, accepting her coffee with a grateful smile. A little, I admitted, but mostly excited. Tonight was the official opening of my exhibition. 6 months of work capturing my transformation through visual metaphor would be on display for the community. Crawford Media was sponsoring the event as part of their commitment to local artists, and many of my colleagues would be attending. What I had not told Jessica or Amanda was that I had also sent invitations to my parents and Haley, not with any real expectation they would come, but as a final gesture toward the possibility of change, a door left slightly ajar should they choose to walk through it. My contact with my family had been minimal since I moved out. Initial angry calls demanding I return home had given way to occasional stilted text messages. My mother's attempts to control me from a distance met my newly established boundaries. My father's disapproval of my career choice confronted my growing professional success. Haley's demands for attention encountered my consistent no. Dr. Patterson, my therapist, had helped me navigate the complex emotions of creating distance from biological family while building meaningful connections elsewhere. Family is not always determined by blood, she often reminded me. Sometimes it is created through choice and nurtured through commitment. As the day progressed, friends and colleagues began arriving for the exhibition opening. My boss, Melissa, brought flowers. Co-workers complimented the power of the images. Even Dr. Patterson came, giving me a warm hug and whispering, "I am so proud of your journey." It was during a quiet moment as I stood alone looking at the centerpiece of the exhibition that I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Allison." I turned to find my father standing awkwardly at the edge of the gallery space, looking out of place in his business suit among the artistic crowd. Behind him, my mother hovered uncertainly, her eyes darting around the room as if assessing who might be watching this reunion. "You came," I said, simply, my heart beating faster. "We received your invitation," my father replied formally. "Your mother thought we should see what you have been doing." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak immediately. The fact that they had come was something, even if their motivation seemed more about curiosity than support. "These are your photographs?" my mother asked, gesturing vaguely around the room. "Yes, all of them." "They are interesting," she offered, clearly struggling to find appropriate commentary. "Very artistic." "Thank you," I said, watching as my father moved closer to examine the centerpiece image. It showed shattered glass with a human figure visible through the fragments, distorted but recognizable. "This is about the accident," he stated, rather than asked, his voice unusually subdued. "It is about transformation," I corrected gently. "About how breaking can sometimes be the beginning of becoming something new." He studied the image without responding, his expression unreadable. My mother joined him, her hand touching his arm lightly. For a moment, I saw them not as the parents who had failed me, but as simply two imperfect humans with their own wounds and limitations. "Haley could not come," my mother finally said. "She has a wellness retreat this weekend." "I figured as much," I replied without bitterness. Some patterns were unlikely to change. An uncomfortable silence fell between us. There was so much unspoken history, so many hurts that had never been acknowledged. I had learned through therapy not to expect the apology I deserved, not to wait for recognition that might never come. "You seem to be doing well," my father observed, looking around at the gallery, the crowd, the evidence of my success. "I am," I confirmed. "I have built a good life." "Without us," my mother added, a hint of accusation in her tone. I met her gaze steadily. I had to. Another silence, heavier this time. Then, surprising me, my father cleared his throat and said, "Perhaps we should have handled things differently after the accident." It was not exactly an apology, but coming from him, it was significant. An acknowledgement, however, small, that something had been wrong with their response. "Yes," I agreed. "You should have." My mother's lips tightened at my directness, but she did not argue. Progress of a sort. "Would you like me to show you around the exhibition?" I offered, extending an olive branch without compromising my boundaries. They accepted, and I led them through the gallery, explaining my artistic process and the meaning behind various images. They listened more than they spoke, occasionally asking questions that revealed how little they knew about my work, my passions, my life. As they prepared to leave, my father awkwardly mentioned that perhaps I might come to dinner sometime. "If you want to," he added, the uncertainty in his voice, revealing a new awareness that I now had choices about our relationship. "I will think about it," I promised, neither accepting nor rejecting the tentative invitation. After they left, Amanda found me standing alone, watching the door through which my parents had departed. "You okay?" she asked, slipping her arm through mine. "I am," I said, realizing it was true. "They came. They saw. They did not really understand, but they tried. It is more than I expected." "And is it enough?" she pressed gently. I considered the question carefully. "It is a beginning. Not of going back to how things were, because I will never accept that again. But maybe of building something new, something with better boundaries and clearer expectations." Amanda squeezed my arm supportively. You know we are here for you either way, right? Your chosen family has your back. I know I smiled, genuine gratitude warming me from within. That is how I found the strength to stand here today, by being seen and valued by people who choose to love me. The exhibition continued around us, people admiring images born from my pain and recovery. In many ways, this gallery represented the final piece of my healing journey. I had taken the broken fragments of my life after the accident and created something beautiful, meaningful, and entirely my own. The path forward would not be simple. Rebuilding any relationship with my family would require their willingness to acknowledge past harms and respect new boundaries. I was prepared for the possibility that they might never fully understand how deeply their actions had wounded me or recognize the transformation their betrayal had ultimately inspired. But I was no longer defined by their limitations, no longer waiting for validation that might never come, no longer measuring my worth through their narrow lens. 6 months ago, they had left me bleeding in shattered glass because my sister was late for yoga class. Today, I stood surrounded by friends and colleagues who valued me creating art that moved people, building a life that reflected my true self. The greatest lesson I had learned was that sometimes the people who share your blood are not your true family. Sometimes you have to build your own circle of support. Sometimes being abandoned is the beginning of finding where you truly belong. If you are watching this and feel unseen in your own family, know that you are not alone. There are people out there who will value you for exactly who you are. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is accepting that those who should love you most may be incapable of doing so in the way you need. Have you ever had to create boundaries with family members who could not see your worth? Share your story in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that they deserve to be valued. Thank you for witnessing my journey, and remember, sometimes our deepest wounds lead us to our greatest strength.